You know, one thing I will say about this game is I'm glad they don't just have the Simpsons theme song constantly playing on loop. Give me that hammer. Nerd. Is that Milhouse? He has no glasses. That is the worst rendition of Milhouse I've ever seen in my life. Was that Milhouse? That was horrible. Welcome back to another episode of our ongoing 2020 Fanstravaganza. I'm your host, Gaming Jay, and today we have the fan-recommended and fan-voted Simpsons Arcade Game for DOS, which is actually rather interesting. I had no idea this game existed for DOS. Frankly, if I did know it existed, I definitely would have bought it or sought it out as a kid. The Simpsons Arcade Game was one of the classic arcade games back in the arcades when I was a kid, up there with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and X-Men, which are all brawlers. They're all beat-em-ups, I realized as I was preparing to make this video here today. And it kind of got me thinking, like, there's actually a lot of classic arcade games that everyone wanted to play that were beat-em-ups. You know, there's like Alien vs. Predator, and I think there was Vendetta, which is probably lost to the sands of time for people who didn't grow up in the 80s, but definitely was a good one. There was like a Dungeons and Dragons Golden Axe style game. I mean, there was Golden Axe, you know. So if I had known that there was a way to play the Simpsons Arcade Game at home, I 100% would have done it. So let's go ahead. I'd like to try all the characters. I don't know if we're going to get to switch characters, but we have to play as Bart. He's obviously the most iconic Simpson, although, I mean, Homer was obvious. I mean, they're all iconic, you know, not to pick favorites here. But yeah, home beat-em-ups were a little rarer in the 80s, I believe. Oh, by the way, the story is like Maggie stole a gem from Smithers, I guess, who was committing a crime for some reason. And now the Simpsons has to beat up... Who is this guy? There was like a random office worker on his way to work. Yeah, the Simpsons have to beat up random office workers and employees on their way to work. I guess these are like Mr. Burns' henchmen or whatever. But they just look like dudes. They look like, you know, like accountants. They don't even like attack very aggressively. So I guess Mr. Burns he sent the accounting department to defend the gem that he stole. Why is Mr. Burns even stealing anything? He's rich. He doesn't have to. Although I guess that's how the rich stay rich. Constant theft. Oh my god, that door opened and hit me in the face. I don't think there are sound effects, just music in the background, so there you go. But we'll see how far we can get in this game. I've long wanted to actually play the arcade game for my channel and do like a big 4-player thing, like maybe invite you know, some of the collaborators and stuff who've been on my channel in the past, do like a big 4-player game, but that's hard to organize, and honestly I've just been so busy I haven't had the chance to do it. But yeah, beat-em-ups were all the rage back in the 80s. I mean, I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game for the NES. A lot of people played games like Double Dragon or Streets of Rage, which I missed out on, but I got River City Ransom, which is sort of like Double Dragon, except it's more like an RPG. It's like an endless RPG. Imagine Double Dragon in an open world where you just beat people up forever, and you can like slowly build your stats up and get more powerful at beating people up. It's actually an amazing game, River City Ransom. I personally rate it as better than Double Dragon, but take that with some caution because first of all, it's personal preference, and second of all, I admittedly, we just picked up the bus stop here, admittedly, you know, never really got into Double Dragon as a kid because I just didn't own it. So if you like Double Dragon more than River City Ransom, that's awesome, but I do think that River City Ransom is a more complex game with like more going on, and there's like, you know, I remember playing that game for just hours and hours. But, I mean, I guess people did that for, you know, Double Dragon as well, so. And then, like, Golden Axe, Final Fight. I mean, I guess there were a handful of beat-em-ups at home. It's not like they're the, you know, game companies. Ooh, a hamburger. Sweet. Thank you, Sherry or Terry, whichever twin you are. But yeah, there were beat-em-ups at home. It's not like they didn't exist. But it just feels like for the home console, it was sort of like everything was a platformer. You know, Mario, Sonic, Mega Man, the list goes on, etc. I just totally wasted that bowling ball. I guess, trying to think here of like what other big platformers were. I mean, Castlevania, Metroid, you know, there were just so many platformers. It's just what home consoles did best at the time. You know, like the Super Star Wars games for Super Nintendo were also, platformers. Like that's what they went with. They didn't go with beat 'em ups. Which actually, now that I say it out loud, why isn't there a Star Wars beat 'em up? That would be amazing. Actually, running around with as Luke, Han, and Leia with like a lightsaber and blasters and stuff, just like fighting your way through levels like this. Why isn't that a thing? I talked myself into an awesome game idea that doesn't exist. Makes me sad. Anyway, I guess Mr. Burns also hired a giant, fat, shirtless wrestler dude. One of the things about this game that made it cool in the arcades is that you could play 4 players at the same time, so you could have the whole Simpsons family running around beating up dudes. And it's funny because, like, if you're thinking about making a Simpsons, like, how do you turn The Simpsons into a video game? The Simpsons is basically a sitcom, right? Oh, there's a giant Krusty the Clown balloon. Smithers is totally evil in this game. He's just gone off the deep end. His attraction to Mr. Burns was unrequited for so long. Okay, why am I sucking at this? I'm hitting the things! I'm hitting the buttons. Oh my god. His attraction to Mr. Burns was unrequited for so long that Smithers went nuts. But yeah, how do you turn Simpsons into a video game? If you look at the video games that the Simpsons have actually made over the years, they've spanned the gamut from... oh, we actually did win. Sweet. I thought we were definitely losing. They spanned the gamut from all sorts of different things. You know, like Bart's Nightmare was sort of a mini-game type game. Then you have like Bart versus the Space Mutants, which was like a weird platformer. Is Krusty coming to kill me? Krusty, no, I thought you're my hero, dude. Krusty. Okay, Krusty's coming to kill me on a ball. All right, we killed Krusty the Clown, everybody. Good job here. Good job here. All right, more accountants. Send your whole human resources department at me, Mr. Burns. I don't care. Hey, Santos L. Halper. What are you doing here, buddy? Okay, he's just for show. He actually does nothing. So I guess a beat 'em up makes about as much sense as anything to turn a sitcom into. You know, like, hey, there's Dr. Marvin Monroe. Isn't he dead in the show? I don't even know. I stopped watching The Simpsons like 15, 20 years ago, which is hilarious because like I watched up until like season 9 or 10. Those are like the Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein golden years. Those were producers on the show, and that was like the golden era for me. Ever since sort of season 10 at the latest, I've definitely lost interest with The Simpsons. They just got too zany and cartoony, and they lost the wit that I think made them clever and smart in the early days. Again, opinion. If you like the later seasons, good for you. That's fine. But my opinion is I'm just not really interested in the later seasons. But at this stage, it's sort of like there's a time when I could be like, yeah, I kind of, lost interest with Simpsons. Haven't watched them in a couple of years. Now it's like I haven't watched them for like 27 years. Like they've been on the air, like 45 years at this point? Like it's insane, whatever it is. I don't know. My numbers are way off. You guys get the joke. But yeah, I don't know what you do to make a game out of a sitcom. Beat 'em up makes about as much sense as anything. Although when you really think about it, it's like making a beat 'em up of The Simpsons is like making a beat 'em up of the Brady Bunch in the 60s, If video games existed, if arcades were a thing, like in the 50s and 60s, I guarantee we would have a like Leave It to Beaver and Brady Bunch, mashup beat 'em up. And it'd be like Jan Brady going around punching people, like that. Video games just that's what they would do. Hey, did Krusty's face fall off right there? Oh my god, Binky! Isn't Binky I think is from one of Matt Groening's other creations. I think he was like a comic or something that Matt created before The Simpsons. Oh, Santa's little helper is back. Alright, this hammer is actually super useful. I want more hammers, as it turns out. I guess I have it until I die? I thought this hammer would wear out quickly, but I guess not. Something else to say about this game is it has horrible controls. It just has, I was going to say some of the worst controls, but many DOS games use this control scheme, so it's not even that unusual. In fact, I'm pretty sure the DOS Golden Axe might use this control scheme. But, so for DOS games, computers could do a lot. This game, by the way, is only 1 megabyte big. Can you guys believe that? That blows my mind, that 1 megabyte and you made the Simpsons game. It's actually quite impressive. But yeah, so DOS games, like I played a lot of DOS games back in the day. DOS games could do a lot. There was a lot of stuff you could play in DOS. However, there were usually a couple limitations. One is they didn't do smooth scrolling so well, at least in the early days of DOS. The other is they sometimes had limited color schemes if you're playing on CGA or whatever, and sometimes the sound wasn't too great. Boy, I'm making DOS games sound awesome, aren't I? But, I mean, DOS games had plenty of advantages, like, you know, it was really hard, it was much easier to play something like Doom, or any first-person shooter on a PC than a console, really. Even when later on there were dual analog sticks, you know, the mouse control just can't be beat for precision. But anyway, I'm digressing here. So, you know, just the fact that you could play this on DOS was awesome, but the control scheme does suck, because for DOS, unless you had a joystick, if you're playing games on a keyboard, it usually just wasn't ideal. Like, I really struggled to think of a game like this, you know, not like a tactical game where it's like you can take your time and the buttons don't really matter, but an action game like this, where you need to be pressing buttons rapidly and doing moves. Like, I struggle to think of a DOS game that does it better than on the keyboard than on a controller. So the controls for this game, you have to use the arrow keys, and then you have to use the 0 and the delete on the number keypad to the far right side of your keyboard. Like, it's just sort of like an awful setup. And actually, if you're playing 2 players, then you have to use the 4, 6, 8, and 2 on the number pad, which double as arrow keys. And so your hand is sort of like cramped over on the far right side of the screen. And, you know, like your right hand is hovering over all the 8, 4, 6, 2 arrow keys. Meanwhile, your left hand is underneath it, trying to press the decimal place and the 0 to like jump and kick. It's just awful. So for today, I mapped this to a Super Nintendo controller, so I'm playing this basically as if this was actually a port on the Nintendo or Super Nintendo. And we even got some DOS, we got some NES slowdown on the DOS here. Things are kind of chugging away as we get too many enemies on the screen. Ooh, I threw a skull, it hit nobody. Look at this guy, he's hiding up here in this tree. He's like pretending to be a ghost. Get out of here! Wonder how much input Matt Groening and the Simpsons team had in this game. Wonder if like some of these were their ideas or what. This game definitely should have been ported, by the way, to the NES. Can I just say that? Or even the Super Nintendo, you know? Like, maybe the NES couldn't have handled this. But like, we're fighting zombies now. Simpsons Treehouse of Horror stuff is happening. Kill this zombie with, I don't know what I've got. My, what is this? A slingshot. Man, the word escaped me for a while. But yeah, so I think it's a mystery to people why certain games never got ported to home console. So for instance, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, that was a huge hit in the arcades, and that is the game that was ported on the NES. Like the NES Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. Pretty sure that's just straight up the arcade game ported. Right? And Double Dragon started its life as an arcade game, and then it was ported to the NES. Man, these zombies are wrecking me. So I kind of feel like there's a lot of good beat-em-ups on home consoles, Golden Axe, that came from the arcades. But then there's others that just are a mystery as to why they never made the transition. Let's transition to drop kicks here, because these zombies are destroying me. Okay, I lied. We're just gonna beat them up. But yeah, so like, why didn't the X-Men arcade game ever get ported to Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis? Why didn't this game? This game would have been awesome. This game, imagine they sold this game in stores, Super Nintendo port. It came with the multi-tap, so you could play 4 players on your Super Nintendo. That would have sold out. That's $1 million idea right there, baby. Right there. I don't know why I wasn't in charge of Super Nintendo's, product and game marketing back in the 80s. Maybe because I was only, I was a toddler, basically. That could be the reason, but I think that if they had turned to me, I could have helped them make $1 million. Okay, we just blew up. It's weird. Who are these dudes? Look in the background, though. There's some sexy lady posters. Ooh la la. It's like that stripper in the really early seasons of The Simpsons that they're like pictures of Homer dancing with her, and then Marge gets upset, and like it's like a dark episode where like Marge is thinking of divorcing Homer or something like that, you know? Simpsons had some really dark episodes in the early seasons. I feel like the later seasons lightened up on that a bit. They it's not like they totally didn't deal with, you know, difficult subjects. They actually did. But like I remember in the early seasons, there was an episode where Bart was getting bullied by Nelson. And it was like literally as a kid, it was like a little scary and disturbing. Like he was getting beaten up and he was having nightmares, and like it's kind of a buzzkill of an episode. Like there were jokes and stuff in it too, but it's like I like as a kid, you know, in the 80s, like you could get bullied, and it's like seeing Bart Simpson get bullied was a little scary. So yeah, like The Simpsons has a deep pool of backstory and characters to draw on, but I feel like the early seasons often sort of get forgotten because they were just rougher around the edges than the later seasons, and they made some weird decisions in those early days. I think they were still figuring out what The Simpsons was, like in season 1 and 2, you know, which is fair enough, but they hadn't sort of figured out the formula yet. And then in seasons, like for me, 3 to 8, they really hit their stride. Even season 2 to some degree. But yeah, like season 3 to 8, I'd watch one of those Simpsons episodes any day of the week. And we were getting crushed. Pro tip in brawlers, do not let guys surround you from all sides or you are going to get man-witched. Which is when they all just start wailing on you from every direction and you're done. You can't recover. I kind of wish this game had sound effects so it's like I could hear these guys getting beat up, because like I'm kind of just running around swinging and I can't tell when they're hitting me versus when I'm hitting them sometimes. Sometimes they just drop over and die and I'm like, oh good, I killed you. Let's get this slingshot. Get away from me. Punch me in the back of the head. I'm a kid, you dick. Hey look, Maggie's on the TV there. I wonder how far we're going to get in this game. We have 2 lives left. Those zombies really took it out of me. Until we hit the zombies, we were actually crushing this game. But we're fairly far, I think. I can't remember how many levels there are, but these arcade games never have that many levels. Although they were designed to suck the quarters right out of your pocket like a vacuum cleaner. But hopefully there's at least one continue. We'll get to check out another character. Aliens. It's space mutants, man. In the world of The Simpsons, it's space mutants, not aliens. Hey, there's a Simpsons Arcade game in the Simpsons Arcade. Whoa, it's meta. They're breaking the fourth wall here. Oh, God. This guy's attacking me with a broom. He's like, the kid's coming! Get your weapons! This guy was in the middle of mopping. He's like, I'll still fight. I'm still good for it. So here's a question for you guys. What are some other arcade games that should have been ported to home console? I'm curious. I think Simpsons and X-Men arcade games are 2 that I never understood why they never got ports. Maybe it's a rights issue. Maybe like Konami didn't want to pay for The Simpsons to be ported. But like I swear they missed $1 million, maybe $2 million. What is this guy? Oh my God! It's a drunk guy who's breathing fire. We're punching him in the butt. Yeah, the secret to this guy is you just stay behind him. He can't hurt you. Like, he literally can't. Oh, there we go. Alright, I'm just punching him in the groin and the buttock area. He's gonna have a very sore pelvis by tomorrow. Stay behind him. This guy's vulnerable in the sphincter. As many of us are. Imagine meeting someone who, like, that was the most armored part of their body was their sphincter. It's sort of the opposite of how most of us live our lives. And I'm trying to think of like other great arcade games. Like I think many of the great arcade games, like I admittedly didn't play tons of arcade games when I was a kid. When I was really little, like the Atari was out and I didn't really understand video games, but I thought Atari was cool. And then when I really hit my stride was the NES era. That's when I was just old enough to like really get into games. So it's like, you know, I was past the arcade. Springfield butt. Weird. I was past the arcade days. So I did most of my gaming on the NES and then like later DOS, Super Nintendo. Eventually I got a Sega Genesis. I asked for it for Christmas when Sonic 2 came out. So I had that too. So that was sort of like my glory days of gaming. And then like around the time the PlayStation 1 came out and the N64, my uncle had a PS1, and so I played a lot of classic PS1 games when I visited his house, so like Metal Gear Solid and stuff. But beyond that, at home, I sort of fell off the console train, and I was really into like PC gaming. So I did a lot of DOS gaming in that era, like Duke Nukem and Dune 2, Command and Conquer, Warcraft. They're like my favorite games: XCOM, Fatal Racing. I don't know, all those games. So it's like I was sort of on the DOS train. And I didn't really honestly come back to consoles until the original Xbox. Halo is what brought me back to the console scene. Man, I thought I picked up that apple. Jeez, we're about to die. Hey, this is Homer. This is like season 1 when Homer becomes like sort of a Yeti when he gets lost in the forest. He's like covered in mud, and he covers himself in mud, and then they mistake him for Bigfoot. See, I remember the early seasons of Simpsons. I'm a Simpsons fan, guys. It's, many Simpsons jokes that I would still quote to this day. Like Boo Earns, that's a classic one. But yeah, just not the later seasons. But anyway, I've sort of lost my train of thought as to what I was talking about here. Oh, thank you, Nelson. Hey, look, Nelson's my buddy. I get up here, old dudes. Get slingshotted by a kid. Hitting him with marbles and stuff. All right, well, that's that. So I wonder what Mr. Burns' endgame here is. Mr. Burns always has like an elaborate plan, like when he blocked out the sun from Springfield and stuff like that. Like there must be maybe that diamond or the gem or whatever that Maggie took. It's totally not just a valuable gem. He's gonna use it for some kind of diabolical machine or something, like power a giant, like cryogenic thing that will like bring him back from the dead or something like that. Mr. Burns always has higher aspirations. Well, actually, I was going to say, he always has higher aspirations than just money, but that's actually not true. You know what? Maybe it's just an expensive gem. Maybe that's the extent of the backstory in this game. Oh my god, we're so close to dying. Oh, look at this. Man, Bart has been lifting at the gym. He's just lifting up full bowl. Oh! Thank you! Sideshow Bob actually helped me. I thought he was definitely a villain. Did the people who made this game even watch The Simpsons? Okay, can we just say Sideshow Bob should not be helping out The Simpsons? That is 100% not what he would do. Sideshow Bob, of course, played by the incomparable Kelsey Grammer, who is a classic and awesome dude. I feel like they're totally different people. But I feel like Kelsey Grammer and Nicolas Cage are sort of the same kind of like, everyone just loves them. Doesn't matter what they're in, they're just great. They're just, Kelsey Grammer plays the sort of hyper intellectual character. He's nothing like Nick Cage in his style or anything like that. So I don't mean it that way, but I do mean like, Nicolas Cage, he's just, the crazier he gets, the more fun it is to watch Nicolas Cage in movies. So I just feel like he's game over. Nicolas Cage definitely grew on me over the years. Wait, is that it? Okay. Oh my god, there's no continues? That's hardcore! That's hardcore as... Alright, well... Let's boot up one more character, I guess, just to see a little variety. I don't know if we'll play this character all the way to the end. In fact, I don't think we will. We'll just sort of mess around. I guess we'll go with Homer, because he's very iconic too. I kind of wanted to pick Lisa or Marge, whatever. We're gonna go with Homer. You can't not play Homer in a Simpsons game. He is Homer. It's a toss-up between Homer and Bart as to who the main character is. Like certainly Marge and Lisa are up there. Like it really isn't an ensemble cast, but I think especially in the later seasons, Homer does sort of take the center more. And I think in the earlier seasons, Bart was more the center of the show. It's kind of interesting. But certainly at the end of the day, it really is an ensemble cast. But anyway, all I was saying is Nicolas Cage is great in everything he does, and so is Kelsey Grammer. I can't think of a bad role for Kelsey Grammer. In fact, I don't know if you guys are fans of 30 Rock, but in 30 Rock, Kelsey Grammer plays an elaborate version of himself that is really into scams and hustles, and it's actually hilarious. One of my favorite jokes in 30 Rock is like Jenna, Kenneth, and Kelsey Grammer get involved in this elaborate scam where Jenna buys cakes on a gift card and returns them for cash. And this is their elaborate scam, and they call themselves the Best Friend Gang. And at the very end of the episode, they've sort of finished the scam, and Kenneth now has all the money he needs, and he's like, I appreciate your help. And he's like, but there, no more scamming for me. Kelsey Grammer's busy talking about their next big heist. And Kenneth is like, I respect what you guys do, but no more for me. And Kelsey Grammer just looks at him, and he's like, I have a lot of respect for you, Kenneth, and, I wish you well. He's like, there's only one thing left to do, and that's to beat you out of the Best Friend Gang. And he slaps his fist into his hand, and Jenna starts pumping her fists. And they just beat the shit out of Kenneth. Oh, it's such a great joke. Beat you out of the Best Friends Gang. Oh my god. 30 Rock, I think, is, I was going to say underrated, but I don't think it's underrated. I think it's a very funny show. Especially for the era it came out. I mean, there's so many funny shows on the air these days, but I always like the humor of 30 Rock. And then the sort of sequel series, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, is also pretty funny. Although I think the later seasons of Kimmy Schmidt got a little less funny. I never actually finished that show, but certainly the earlier seasons were hilarious. But anyway, Homer is off avenging Maggie here. You can see it's pretty much the same game, you just have a slightly different character. Like, one of the coolest things of this game was when you played multiple people and characters could team up. So, like, Bart and Lisa would grab hands and run around screaming, "Where's my mommy?" Pretending to be lost. And, like, they did a power move that way. And Homer and Bart could do power moves, Homer and Marge. There were so many variations of power moves you could do. Doing the power moves was, like, a big part of what sort of... I mean, there's many things that make this game interesting, but that was certainly a part of what made this game interesting. Like, oh, go Homer, look at that sweet dance. But obviously you can't do that single player. But you know what? I'm actually okay with the fact that we didn't beat this game today. Because here's the thing. I have not given up my idea that I would like to play this game 4 players one day. Sorry, I'm just really having to concentrate to pump this thing up. Boom. I might have lost there. Or did I? Oh, how did I lose? Wow, that other computer player rocked me. Jeez. I've not given up hope that I'm going to play this game 4 players on my channel one day. I'm going to get some of the guests who've been on my channel in the past, get 4 of them together, and we're going to play the Simpsons game to completion. Because we'll play the arcade port, and we'll just credit feed if need be to... Oh, that's not Krusty! That's just a dude dressed up as Krusty. That makes more sense. I was wondering how Mr. Burns was able to employ Krusty the Clown. But yeah, I will gather together 3 allies, and we will pump quarters into the arcade port of this game until we succeed in our mission of beating the game. We probably weren't too far off with Bart there, but I probably won't do that anytime soon because we just played the arcade port, and so there's no need to rush back to The Simpsons. So one day I will do it, but not right now. I'm holding a cup, balancing it on my head, and I killed a guy with it. What was in that cup, man? What was in that cup? One thing I will say about this game is I'm glad they don't just have the Simpsons theme song constantly playing on loop. Give me that hammer, nerd. Is that Milhouse? He has no glasses. That is the worst rendition of Milhouse I've ever seen in my life. Was that Milhouse? That was horrible. Hey, come here, man. Funny story about teacups. One time I went to Canada's Wonderland when I was in university with a friend, and we got on the teacups. It's one of the first rides when you enter Canada's Wonderland. If you don't know what Canada's Wonderland is, it's just a theme park in Canada. It used to be affiliated with Hanna-Barbera, so you'd have the Hanna-Barbera mascots running around, but nowadays... it used to be Paramount Canada's Wonderland, that's why it had the Hanna-Barbera Association. Nowadays it's just nothing, just Canada's Wonderland. So it's like they rebranded all these rides. There used to be like the Top Gun ride, now it's just called Speed Plane or something, very generic. But anyway, I went to Canada's Wonderland one year, One of the first rides was the teacups. Me and my friend showed up early. We were waiting for everyone else to arrive. And he was like, let's just stay near the main entrance. And we were like, okay. And then I was like, let's just go in the teacups. So we got on. And as the ride was getting ready to go, like we weren't fully buckled up yet. And he was like all worried. And I was like, man, it's the teacups. Don't worry about it. And I didn't even buckle myself up. Like, that is so irresponsible on the theme park ride. And literally the teacups started to go, and I don't know if we were on the adult teacups or what, but they started to spin so fast that me and my friend were literally holding on for dear life, thinking we might slide out of the teacup. So, yeah. We were idiots. I can admit that. It was a mistake. But for the love of God, when you get on teacups, people, if there's seatbelts, put the damn seatbelts on. Don't try and macho man it out because, you know, like, that could have been the end of Gaming J. I could have died. Probably wouldn't have died. Probably just would have got really hurt. But yeah, I since then, I 100% always put on, like, the safety harness or thing. Even on, like, you know, when you go up in, whatchamacallit, Ferris wheels, where they put you in, like, a cage, so you're all, like, locked up. If there's a seatbelt on the seat, I'll put that on, too. Because I'm like, I don't know. Maybe this ride's going to start, and it's going to, like, spin around at, like, you know, 50 miles an hour, and the centrifugal force will, like, pull me up against the seat. I don't know what this ride is. Until it gets going, I'm keeping the seatbelt on. So always wear your seatbelts. I learned that one the hard way. Give me that burger, Terry. Let me beat up a giant Krusty the Clown balloon. Anyway, we have seen all these levels before, so I'm not really gonna carry on much further past this point, but I did have fun with this game. It is really neat that this game exists. I mean, again, I always loved the arcade game. I never beat it as a kid because I could never get my parents to cough up enough quarters. I don't even think I ever saw it be beaten, although I think the last guy is Smithers that you fight, so maybe I have seen it. One day I will return to the arcade port of this with a gang of friends and we will beat it. But for today, it was fun just checking out the DOS port. If I had known this game existed back in the day, I 100% would have purchased it and played it. Me and my friend, I had friends. I mean, I still have friends, what am I saying? But I had a friend who I played a lot of games with back in sort of like grade 7 to grade 10. I went over to his house every day after school and we would just play games on his computer. And if we had this game back in the day, I can assure you, me and him would have played it 2 players and we would have beaten it. So yeah, it's disappointing I didn't know this existed, but it's always fun. I think it's one of the great things about being a retro gamer as an adult is realizing just how many hidden gems passed you by in your youth and getting to play them as an adult, because when you discover a hidden gem and you're like, oh man, I wish I knew this existed as a kid. It's like, yeah, it's a little sad you didn't play this as a kid, but look on the bright side. You get to play it as an adult now, and it's like discovering a new retro game. Like how cool is that? So one of the things I personally enjoy about my channel and about playing through the 1001 book and getting recommendations from you fine folks is just discovering all the games I didn't know about as a kid. It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. These days, I actually even rarely play new games because it's like I find I just have like literally, thousands of old games on my like to play list. Like I made a video on Patreon a while back where I showed people the Excel spreadsheet I use in order to plan out my 1001s. And it's more complicated than you might think. But I also maintain a list of games that have come to my attention, either through recommendations or otherwise, that I want to play for my Saturday afternoon gaming series, or just like some other excuse to play them. And literally, I'm past 1,000 entries on that list. Like I have I'm generally working through that 1001 games just play before you die book, but I have over 1,000 games to play that aren't in that book. Like there's just so many retro games that exist out there that it's like, new games come out occasionally. People are like, hey, you trying this new game? I'm like, dude, I will try that game in like 10 years. Like, I'll buy it for $5 at a thrift store when I am ready. But I'm in no rush to play new games these days just because, I'm still working through a 30-year backlog of video games. So anyway, that's my life. How are you guys doing? All right, well, we've seen enough of The Simpsons here. It was one of the recommendations for our Fanstravaganza. Obviously, there's more Fanstravaganza to come. I hope that whatever you guys think of this game, I hope it was fun and entertaining for you. If you yourselves have memories of the Simpsons Arcade Game, of playing it back in the day, of wondering why it never got ported, if you had tips or strategies or anything you'd like to share, please comment in the comments down below. And as always, I hope that you guys had some fun today. Make sure to tune back in tomorrow because Fanstravaganza is pretty much 12 constant days. I have one or two gap days. I can't remember when they are, but we're going pretty hardcore. There might not be any more gap days left. I have to look at the schedule. Look at my Excel sheet. But yeah, do tune back in soon for more awesome fan recommended and fan voted on games. So until next time, my friends, you all take care of yourselves. And from the world of The Simpsons, don't have a cow, man. I feel like even my Simpsons references are kind of dated these days. You know who I feel like sometimes is Grandpa Simpson.
I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was. Now what I'm with isn't it, and what's it seems weird and scary to me.
That is definitely me these days.